What's up, environmental science scholars? In today's class, we're going to be designing a poster featuring an inspiring quote, a scenic background, and photos featuring you and some buddies in which we're going to be applying blending modes. But before we get into that, we need to briefly discuss font pairing. So why do we do that? Well, if we ever want to juxtapose two ideas or maybe highlight a specific word, it's great to add a little contrast featuring font choices. So here, for example, we've got a cute and light font, thick and heavy. My go-to is this sort of script font and like a block font. Here we've got sketchy and pretty handwritten font. And you'll notice that because these 6 examples highlight some pretty stark contrasts between these individual fonts, it's more compelling. Our eye is really drawn to it, and it's a great way to highlight specific information. So, as an example, if we're looking at this quote right here, be the reason someone smiles today. What's the most important word in that quote? I would argue that it's smiles, right? Well, I hopped on Pinterest and I found this poster, and indeed, here we've got a block font with a script smiles font. So that makes sense, right? So likewise, with this Rachel Carson quote, I did a little bit of analysis and I decided that beauty of the earth is really important. So I was going to be individualizing that with a specific font, as is life lasts. And when we return to Photoshop, you can see that I broke up this quote into a number of lines, staggered it. We've got different size font. We've got different font types. And how do we download fonts? Well, the first thing that we're going to do is go to Dafont.com. And when we get to Dafont.com, we're going to click on top. You guys see that? And then I would strongly recommend that you change fonts from 20 to 100. And then what we can do is we can preview text here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a quote. And Izzy had a great quote by Lady Bird Johnson. So I'm going to copy her quote. Well done, Izzy. I'm going to return to Google Drive. I'm going to paste it in. And I'm going to do a little bit of analysis. And I think the environment is really important. And a mutual interest is important. And then finally, all of us share is also really critical. So those are going to be the words that I highlight with a specific font. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste a mutual interest. I'm going to return to Dafont.com. I'm going to paste it into this preview text right here, right? And I'm going to click submit. And when I do that, I can now scroll through on this page 100 different examples of a mutual interest. And I really like this beyond infinity quote. I would recommend that you guys consider it. You want one that's fun but legible. And so maybe you would contrast a beyond infinity with lemon milk. That's another go-to. So think about font pairings. Think about how you're going to compare, contrast. And when you've got those fonts, you know how you're going to break up and stagger your quote. Let's jump into the template itself. So we're going to pop everything on top of this purple background. And I found this this pretty scenic tundra. And I'm going to return to Google Drive. And I'm going to start adding this quote. So I can see that it says, the environment is where we all meet. So the first line of text I'm going to do is the environment. And I'm going to have it beneath the horizon. So I'm actually going to, I'm going to grab this visual right here, environmental science at NYC Lab School. This is going to be kind of like our logo, our brand. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit by pressing Command-C, holding Shift. Now we want to definitely include this in our poster, but we can like rearrange it depending on the context of whatever it is that you're working on. Great. Now how do we add text? I'm going to press the type tool, and I'm going to click just once. All right, I'm going to press Command V, and it's hard to see it, so I'm going to press Command A. I'm going to make sure that this text is white, and I'm going to increase the size from 16 to 72. And this all of a sudden, I think this is a little bit too big. And I'm not loving this in font right here, so I'm going to try beyond infinity and see how that looks. Alright, that looks pretty good right here. And we need to go back to our quote, is where we all meet. I'm going to press T, Command V, and again, we're going to want to add some contrast. So instead of the script font, I'm going to add a block font, and I like Cocoa Goose. I'm going to reduce the size. And you're going to continue in this process, staggering the text, thinking about size, thinking about what looks good, until you find something that you're happy with that looks a little bit like this. Now you're probably thinking, Droz, What about us? How do we add our photos? How do we apply blending modes? Well, I got this pretty cool photo featuring um, Cheryl, Natasha, and Janelle, and I'm going to download it by clicking the vertical dots. I'm going to click download. I'm going to return to Photoshop. I'm going to click File, Open, and let's find these guys. And where are they? There they are. Okay, great. I'm going to use the marquee tool just to create a quick selection. I'm going to press Command C and then Command V. I'm going to have these guys up here above the skyline. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is actually not tricky. You just want to pay attention. We're going to desaturate this first before we add the blending mode. To desaturate means to make it black and white. I'm going to press Command Shift U. So we press Command Shift U, and I'm going to press Command L, and we're going to adjust the levels. So Command Shift U, Command L is we're going to lighten the lights a little bit, darken the darks just a tad. That looks great. And next what we're going to do is we're going to apply blending modes, and I'm going to start with luminosity, and I don't love that. I'm going to try overlay, and I don't love that either. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to take your photo, and you're going to press V, and then hold Shift and press plus plus plus. And when you're holding Shift and pressing plus plus plus, you can cycle through different blending modes until you get an effect that you like. And I kind of like that one right there. So this looks great. And I'm happy with that. I'm going to drag this spot right here. And so what do we do next? I'm going to use the eraser tool by pressing E. And I'm just going to simply erase out this area right here. Tremendous. And I'm going to get just the outsides of their heads. You guys are going to do a much better job than this, but you can have you and your buddy sort of floating in the sky. It's going to look a little bit like this. I definitely cannot wait to see where you're going to write your name at 2018. Good luck.